Hi, I'm John and welcome back to my Lair of Action Figures. Today we're going to be continuing in the G.I. Joe Classified series and we're going to go on to the G.I. Joe Legacy Collection. So, of course, the first one who was announced is the Search and Rescue, who's the firefighter. And of course we should be getting, and this one I will be getting maybe at the end of the month from the stuff with getting from the US. So, I will be getting the police officer. It did make sense that we were going to get some kind of characters like that. I do find it a bit strange that they wanted to go this route, no mention of 60th anniversary or going into this like they did with the Action Sailor, because back in the day we did have some firefighters. Those existed in Action Man, they also existed in G.I. Joe. One of the most famous 12-inch firefighters, I would say, would be the Hot Toy ones that they did back in the day. We edited them. They did a 2.0 version of it, thinking that they already did 2.0 in the military line. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back into these guys over here. So, of course, standard box that you're going to be getting. I'm not going to flip it over. This box doesn't have any numbers. It doesn't have any information or military codes like the regular G.I. Joe, so we get the two sides of the box. So of course this is the one I opened, and if you can guess, if I have only two boxes, that means I kept one minting box and I only opened one, and that we'll be talking about the reason of the army building. So of course, as you can see on the behind of the box, this standard, so we have Shipwreck over here, who's been carried away with this blanket around him. So I don't know what he burned, if Polly's okay, if he managed to get out of there. Then we have the car all wrecked up. So I guess we're going to be going on to some catastrophic scenes, and I would see what the police officers. So this is what we have as the box. Now let's dive into what we get inside the box. So what do we get in the box? Of course we get the firefighter. We get an extra head over here. Oops, come back over here. So we get an extra head. We get 3 axes. So I don't understand why they wanted to do it, but we get 3 axes. Two are exactly the same. We get, of course, the tank for the respirating system over here. We have, of course, the cord who goes with it. We have the firefighter helmet. Then we have some goggles over here. Then we have the crowbar. We have a sledgehammer. We have the small sledgehammer. If you want to do any Thor jokes with Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, this could be a good time to do it. Of course, we have the special blanket that I haven't opened. And, of course, the Jaws of Life to open the vehicle. So, this is everything that you get in the box. So, let's have a closer look at all of this. So, of course, going to be looking at the firefighter itself. As you can see, he does look to have a bit of an Asian descent by the looks of the face that they decided to go with. Of course, we also got an African-American head sculpt over here, who seems to be a bit different, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there seems to be a bit of a maybe not. Yeah, there seems to be a bit of a difference if I'm looking, or not really. They decided to paint it a bit differently. So yeah, it's an interesting choice. But again, this is where it's going to limit it for army building, because you would like to have something to army build around it. But I have a little idea and a suggestion to make when I'll be going into my final thoughts about the figure. So the uniform itself is pretty decent the way it's done. Of course, you have the moving part of the lower part of the vest. You have the gloves. So, of course, there's not much you can see about the body. So it puts it really easy for you to get all the different head sculpts to go with it, to put it as such. So, yeah, the figure doesn't have the standard either T system for the ab crunch over here. So I guess you won't really need it. The backpack or the hose doesn't really come out. You will have to remove it or cut it here or pull it out. So yeah, this is something that is also interesting to know about. So we have already talked about the head. So of course we're going to be looking at the canister for the back. As you can see, you can't be mistaken. It has the perfect fit shape to go on it, so you cannot mix it up and to make it go the wrong way. So this is him geared up. Of course, we're going to have his oxygen mask over here. So pretty well detailed, interesting looks to it. Of course, you would have the system to plug it in. So I think it goes this way in. We can just turn it, flip it around, but this is with the pipe, and then this connects directly onto the figure over here, and this is how the mask is held on to the figure. Afterwards, we have the helmet. So let's take the helmet. As you can see, helmet is kind of interestingly detailed. We have also the goggles over here. We're going to give it a little spin. There's the protection here. Of course, the goggles will not fit over. You will be able to put on the figure, and we'll be having a look at that because this is a bit tricky. You will have to first put the head in like this, or the goggles in like this, so that you can slide in the head afterwards from over here, because otherwise you will not manage. And this goes for the same with the gas mask. You will have to first fit it in and then try to squeeze the head through over here, because there's not really another way to be doing it. So yeah, this is something that you have to really look out when you're doing it, and this makes me wonder how this strap is going to last. Now let's continue. Over here we have the different axes that we get. I don't understand why we get two different axes like this, because basically these are the same. One would have been enough, maybe could have given us something else, but let's show the axes. These axes can be interesting to reuse with your regular Joes as equipment. You have the crowbar, who's also really interesting for opening doors. You're using it for special forces. That's G.I. Joe. Then we have the sledgehammer, the big one over here. Would be kind of curious to understand the utility of having something so large and so big, and afterwards you have the smaller one, who could seem a bit more logic, but the large one does seem a bit not very practical. Of course, I'm not too much into this sledgehammer stuff, so I could be wrong about it. Then, before going on to this accessory, we have the blanket here. Of course, you have the aluminium folding inside. You can see over here. I haven't opened it. I really don't want to mess it up. Well, come on, let's open it up, because I only have one. So this is a bit of a shame that they didn't do something that you would be able to... Oh, yes, you can slide it open. So yeah, you have to watch out. There's some squeaky noise, so if you have you're a bit allergic to it. So yeah, as you can see, it is just a basic cover that I'm going to fold back up, and you can hear the squeakiness over there. So if you're a bit sensitive, I'm going to put it back in, because I do not really care about this blanket, telling you the truth. Of course, we have the Drawers of Life. That is the one that you're getting with Whipper. So this is exactly the same one, but just with a repaint, with some orange paint. And of course, it works also in the same way. So pretty basically all what you have over here. So now that we got everything out of the way, let's dive into, do I think this is going to be a collectible item? And what are my final thoughts about it, and what would be my note out of 10 for this figure. So, jumping into my, I'm not going to call it final thoughts, but I'm going to be talking about the fact, is this a collectible item or not? So, for me, this figure has an interest, but currently right now, he's going out on special offer. I think it's Amazon who's doing him, and Walmart are doing him on special offer. So if you didn't pick him up, they're knocking a few bucks off this guy over here. So he may be interesting to pick up. Now, do I believe this is going to be a collectible item? Well, that will depend on what Hasbro is going to do, because if you want, Hasbro will need to give us something a bit more to be able to find this interesting to have as a figure, because if we want to have it as a collectible, well, we need to know what else is coming out, because if we're not getting the full list of what we're getting, this would put it as a pretty non-interesting figure, because you're like, well, if you're not going to give us some EMTs or some other figures to go with it, this would not make it be such an interesting figure. And if there's only 2 figures in the legacy, that means the police officer. This would make it as a pretty sad possibility to only have these 2 figures. So as you can see, I've been mucking around when I've been telling you this. So here, this is the way it looks with the mask in. So yeah, I do think that the collectible value of this figure will depend on the fact of how good the line will sell, and not only that, will we be getting other figures to go with this line. So this is something that is going to be a huge question. If we get more figures and this one sells out, there's high chances that there might be a lot more interest in these figures. So that would be my part about, is it a collectible item? Let's go into my final thoughts and note. And no, I'm not going to, will be giving him a quick spin after I've talked about something regarding the army building. So, little side note regarding the army building. Like I said, we only get 2 heads. So we get the African American head and we get the Asian head. Now, if you want to put some other heads on these figures, I would suggest to go to the action soldier, because you can pick up his head and it really doesn't matter that he has the face mask on, because you can pop his head in. Now, it looks like the pegs are a bit bigger than the ones who come with the action soldiers, but you can fit the head in, and you can of course put the helmet on. So if you really want to put maybe a Caucasian, or have the Caucasian with the glasses on or the goggles on, and you want him to be dressed up as a firefighter, you can go with it. As you can see, it works pretty well. So yeah, I'm going to see, because I managed to pop it in before when I was doing a test, and you can really hear this pop going in, and as you can see, it does work. It's an interesting idea, but this is again where Hasbro really needs to work on their line of figures so that we can get, oh, it really went in. As you can see, it's not that easy to pop in and out. As you can see, this does hold a bit better, so it goes a bit lower down. So this is a bit of a shame that we don't get some extra heads like this that you can interchange in doing that in that way. This could be something of interesting if you want to army build, and this is the reason why I did not buy more, because I don't really see the interest of army building this guy over here. So these are going to be my final thoughts and my note out of 10 for this figure. So before going on to the note, I will be talking about my pros and cons about this figure, and I do think that the figure does have some interesting ideas, and there's a lot of stuff that is kind of missing or could have been replaced. Like I said, I don't understand why we're getting 2 sledgehammers. 2 axes don't make really much sense. There could be some maybe different helmets, or I don't know. This depends if you're going to be expanding this legacy line. So it's really hard to really go into it, but they could have given us maybe an extra head sculpt, or something to replace maybe the 1 sledgehammer and 1 axe. The other big problem with this legacy figure, it does not come with a stand. I think this is something who is needed on this figure, because he comes with gear, he has equipment. If you try to make him stand, he's not going to stand that easy without it, and I think this is something really missing on a figure. If you're going to give us a $34.99, I forgot to tell you about the prices. So yeah, the figure is sold for $39.99 in the US and €42.99. I mean, if you're giving us this kind of figure legacy going into the 60th anniversary, we should be getting a stand with this figure. Like I said, some of the gear I can understand why they give it to us, but overall, I think that Hasbro needs to announce more stuff around it to make this figure interesting. As a figure like this does not have much of an army build value either, so I'm going to be giving this figure a 6 out of 10. That's why I don't think it's worth more than that. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame. They could have done something a bit more interesting. A hose. I mean, go and look at the Super 7, not Super 7, sorry, Plan B toys that I did the video of, the Firefighters. There was something more interesting. I think this figure does lack a lot of it, and this is why I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. So let me know if you agree with me. Did you buy this figure? Are you planning to buy it now that you know that it's going to be put up in kind of clearance for Black Friday? I guess there's going to be some other promotions. Let me know in the comment section. Tell me if you agree with me or not, and let's start a conversation around this figure. So that's going to be it for my Firefighter, the Search and Rescue in the G.I. Joe Classified series in the Legacy collection. If you like this kind of videos, please leave a like, share, comment in the section. You can go and check out my Facebook page if you want to see more pictures and more news. The links are in the description of the video. Until then, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.